Welcome into Inside Arkansas Football Show here on Inside Arkansas. I'm John Neighbors alongside Andrew Ellis, and thank you for making us a part of your Saturday this Saturday as we had a chance to hear from Sam Pittman as well as Fernando Carmona for a recap of the Razorback Fall Scrimmage number 2 here on this Saturday. And we appreciate everybody tapping in and being a part of it as we're going to go through all the different things that were mentioned, who looked good, who didn't look so good, get your reactions, your chats, and everything too. But Andrew, once again, we'll get to hear from Pittman, get to hear from Carmona, have another Saturday scrimmage, number 2 at least, but just your overall feelings and takeaways from hearing from the head coach and the offensive lineman.
Yeah, I feel like this scrimmage is a little bit less there's a little bit less attention on this one because it's not the first scrimmage of the fall. And, we're kind of waiting to see who all is going to stand out. And I also feel like from hearing from Sam Pittman and Fernando Carmona, we didn't get as definitive. Last week it was very obviously about the offense and it was very clear the defense struggled. They tried to be a little bit more coy this time around and didn't really go into specifics about who won the day. But it sounds like the offense still performed very well. There were a lot of explosive plays. The SID Kyle Parkinson was listing off a lot of touchdowns for both the 1s and 2s and 3s. But it was very productive. For those that were wondering about the format of this scrimmage, according to Sam Pittman, they ran 43 plays with the 1 offense versus the 2 defense. And then they ran 35 plays with the 2 offense versus the 1 defense. And then 25 plays, 3s versus 3s. And kicked 3 field goals every time there was a touchdown. Went 9 for 12 on those field goals overall. Had a couple Scott Starzak kicks in front of the Chancellor, which is a big topic of conversation. But it did seem like it was a productive day. They came out of it pretty healthy, according to Sam Pittman as well. A couple guys held out. Rodney Hill was held out. David Oki was held out. They did get Cam Shanks back, at least for returning, which is nice. Cam Ball returned. And so it sounds like it was a productive day overall. A little bit more of an idea of sort of who goes where and what positions. The position battles, if there are any at this point, are being solved a little bit. And so we still don't know how good this football team is, but we have a much better idea of who's going to start, who's going to play at some key spots, and how things are going to look and kind of the hierarchy at each position.
Yeah, and so again, folks, well, if you have questions in the chats, it's Curtis is out. He's doing baby stuff, so he's going to be out today. So it's just me and Andrew. So if you have some chats, we'll try to get to them all, but just be patient with us on that. But yeah, it seemed, at least from hearing from both, offense, man, the offense is outdoing the defense once again. And I think we even talked about this on Inside Arkansas Football last Saturday. We're like, hey, could this just be a 1 scrimmage thing? Could this be just, maybe it's just one really great day, but could it bounce back? What does it mean? Well, here we are, Andrew, now into the second scrimmage, and it's pretty much the same song, different verse. It's the offense had explosive plays. The offense has been looking really good. And in fact, I'm just going to make a reckless assumption here. Usually we have multiple players to speak with or to hear from. And we didn't get any defensive players today. The only one we got was an offensive player. So can't help but think that, all these things kind of coming together. The defense is in really bad shape. And again, I know I have some clips to play from this, but that's kind of what I gathered from this. I think with David Oki being mentioned that he was out and, Pittman kind of being like, we're kind of thin right now at that position. So, and not try to make mountains out of molehills, as certain people would say. But it certainly gives the vibe that, once again, this Razorback offense is being consistent, is really good, is being explosive, and the Razorback defense is having some pretty serious struggles here through 2 weeks.
Yeah, the term that Pittman kept using was explosive plays. He was just like, man, there's just explosive plays every time we line up. Both scrimmages have featured a ton of explosive plays for the offense. And, of course, that makes you excited about your pass catchers, makes you excited about your running backs, excited about your quarterback and your O-line. And he talked about a lot of that, but it, of course, is something they want to clean up. I thought there were a few things because, again, he tried to be a little bit more coy because I think it was certainly brought to his attention after last week's scrimmage and his press conference afterwards that the overwhelming thought was that the defense got cooked. And so I think he tried to maybe be a little bit less obvious with it and be like, oh, man, the defense sucks out there. I think he tried to kind of do some things. He spoke about some defensive players that played well. I mean, Phillip Lee is a guy, a defensive end, a transfer that we've been kind of waiting to hear about. He says he's starting to come on now, looks like a legitimate pass rushing threat. So that's a positive development. One thing that he said that I thought that really caught my attention, Pittman said that for the second week in a row, they haven't had a ton of penalties, which again is something you kind of expect in these scrimmages because you're not quite ready. At this point in camp, you're not really ready to play an actual game. So you expect there to be a lot of procedure penalties, a lot of holding, a lot of whatever. He said there weren't many penalties at all, but there was a drive with the second team offense where the first team defense committed 4 penalties on the drive that wound up leading to a touchdown. So that's a little bit concerning. Another thing that I noticed is he said there was only 1 turnover in this scrimmage, and it was about 115, 120 plays, something like that. I listed off the numbers earlier. Y'all could do the math. 1 turnover, and it was an interception with the 3 defense. So another thing that, there were scrimmages last year. I remember where Malachi Singleton faced the first team offense and threw like 4 interceptions. And it was kind of a narrative of like, hey, yeah, our second team offense, they just couldn't move the ball against our 1 defense. They were turning the ball over. Have not had many plays being made on that defensive line. I didn't hear him list off any sacks, any TFLs. I'm sure there were some, but we just didn't hear about those. We'll see if some of these stats come out, but have not heard much in terms of like defensive guys that are standing out or stretches that the defense won, and I don't think that is a coincidence.
Yeah, I think that you're starting to see, and it takes shape and come together, that this Razorback offense, it goes back to the whole question of, okay, is it the Razorback offense just that great, or is it the Razorback defense that bad? Is it that the Razorback offense is putting it all together and they're taking advantage of it, or is it the Razorback defense is just in over their head? There's just so many things that we can take this and to dive into, but it's just incredible to me that the consistency, because that's why I think we look for in these fall camps and these press conferences is like, all right, so what's the consistent messaging here? What is the thing that continues to be brought up? Whether it's the, like, for instance, the situation with, Mike Washington, still to this day getting talked about as being great. I think what was it, a 91-yard touchdown today?
91-yard touchdown and a 32-yard touchdown. And then, by the way, Pittman said that they actually scaled back his reps because they realized, hey, yeah, we don't want to run our number 1 running back 25 times in this scrimmage. And Braylon Russell seemed to have a pretty good scrimmage today as well.
Yeah, so you're seeing the offense that is continuing to have success and have explosive plays. I'm happy about that because, as we know, like the Bobby Petrino offense, there's a lot of built on that. I mean, if you go back and look at War Machine's highlights of some of the most greatest plays and things that happened in Razorback football, at least of recent memory, a lot of it came from the Petrino era because it was built around a lot of explosive plays. So it's good to hear about that. But it's also a matter of, is this something that the offense continues to get better? Is the defense getting worse? Where are the question marks surrounding it? And basing it on that, it makes it really tough. But, the thing is what, again, we'll hear from Sam Pittman in a few of these clips because it was quite the press conference, needless to say. But we'll start with this, the wide receivers and the ones that have been stepping up on the offensive side of the ball, because we know that there's, of course, Ishmael CC is going to be out for the season. And they've had some other guys, Omega Blake's there, but CJ Brown. There's so many different pieces there. But here's what Sam Pittman had to say about the wide receivers and who's been stepping up so far this year.
Build confidence in the quarterback with whomever, and I'll go back this week. Is a really good question because, CJ this week he's made a lot of plays at practice, did today. Sharp's been out. So, we've been able to move CJ some into slot as well. But you look at that, and Andy Jean's out. So someone has to step up. And I think, we've found that are healthy right now, 5 to 7 guys. And, Jaylen Brown made some plays this week. Rohan Jones is another guy that yesterday I felt like had his best practice. Production wise and catching difficult catches and all that. So I think we're getting more people. I think that's your point as well, because it was Omega and Sharp for so long, and it still is Omega, but we're adding into that, which is really going to help us and keep fresh guys on the field that have confidence and as important, we have confidence in them.
So, yeah, kind of going through some of those guys and, hear about Sharp a little bit, but, Omega and Browns, the Browns, as you would, those kind of been the ones that have been focused on and the ones I think fans have been wondering about. But just the wide receivers, what do you make of where it stands right now? And We know Omega Blake's great, but who are some of the other ones according to Pittman there?
So again, it's one of those things where we will never really know until we know in the SEC play how this group is going to stack up against other teams, but we know now how they kind of stack up amongst themselves. And I think you have a pretty clear top 4 at the moment with Raylan Sharp, who, by the way, it doesn't sound like Raylan Sharp was available throughout practice for some of this week. It's very weird. Pittman at the start said, we didn't have any injuries. And then he was like, but we held out Xavier Sorey, we held out Rodney Hill, we held out Raylan Sharp. This guy was banged up. David Oki might not be able to play. So it's like, that doesn't seem like no injuries. But I think with Raylan Sharp, who you assume is going to be in that top 4, Omega Blake, absolutely. CJ Brown seems like he's going to be that third starter and could play inside or outside. And then it sounds like Monty Harrison is like the clear 4th guy who's going to get some reps with the ones and going to be in there. And I think we've kind of determined now, is he going to be a star? Maybe not, but he is going to play for the team this fall, which should be interesting. And then it sounds like, he said 5 to 7. So then it seems right after that, you kind of have a group there of Jaylen Brown, maybe Andy Jean when he's healthy, maybe Cam Shanks when he's healthy. And so you kind of have at least some semblance of a hierarchy and identity of who those top guys are. And seems like the tight ends, by the way, has been, and I know that's not receivers, tight ends who we mentioned a couple of there, like Rohan Jones is a guy that they've really loved his athleticism. Seems like he can make some plays down the field. Jaden Platt the last 2 weeks is a guy that seems like he's kind of come out of nowhere because it's, all spring we didn't hear anything about him. First week of fall camp, didn't hear anything about him, but last week we heard he caught a touchdown. Now it seems like they feel confident in him. So you now have a little bit of a definitive kind of depth chart forming there. And so you got about 5 to 7 guys that they feel like they can play in the receiver room, which is on par with what you normally have to have in the SEC. Usually in the SEC, you're traveling about 6 or 7 receivers. One guy that, guys, fans, I want to apologize ahead of time because this is not coming from me. This is coming from Sam Pittman. He says that it seems like Antonio Jordan may be hitting that freshman wall a little bit. It seems like Antonio Jordan might not end up being in that top 2 to 3 receiver mix that I think so many people desperately wanted him to be. And again, this is not coming from me. This is coming from Sam Pittman. It seems like he's kind of, him and Crutchfield, I feel like, are the 2 that everyone wants to be in that top group and just aren't there. But I think now that Arkansas kind of has an idea of, hey, here are our top 5 or 6 guys. Let's see if we can win with them. I don't know where they're going to stack up in terms of receiving cores in the SEC, probably in the bottom middle, if I had to guess. But, with this offense and what they have, the identity they seem to have with Taylon Green, with Mike Washington in the run game, O-line, there's not a ton of questions. Tight end, you got a couple guys. It's not like there's a ton of pressure on this wide receiver room, but I think at this point we kind of now know who the top 5 or 6 guys are.
Well, I'll tell you what, here is Sam Pittman talking about Antonio Jordan and giving the update. As you said, Andrew, hear it from him first.
I think like anybody at that age, some you hit a little bit of a wall, either it be the learning, the playbook, all that stuff, or just the rigors of every day, 14 hours a day or whatever it is. It's a lot, whatever the rules say. And but saying that, I think he's as elite as we thought he was before. Once you start making these great catches, you want to make it every single time, and he is human, but he's very, very good. And I think he's going to be an elite player in our league, not just for the university, but in our league. And I'm really pleased with him.
So I want to address this too, because this is something that I know I got accused of, and talking about Antonio Jordan and everything. It's like, this is exactly why, and I'm not like, this is not criticism of Pittman or anybody. This is just what I'm saying to everybody out there. This is why you have to wait, man, because it's like Antonio Jordan. We saw the highlight that he had in that catch in practice at the very beginning. We had heard some good things about it. But it's like, you cannot take what a true freshman wide receiver accomplishes in a couple of practices at the beginning of fall camp and immediately put this expectation on him. Like, oh man, this guy's going to be the next Traylon Burks. Like, you just cannot do that. And so I'm thankful that Pittman talked about it in this way and was very direct, where he handled it perfectly. He's like, I'm not hating on the kid. It's not like this kid's crap and he's never going to play, but he's kind of hit that wall as a freshman where you come in, people start to develop, people start to gather, people start to get a little bit better. and you may kind of hit this certain situation to where you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing and not looking as good as what maybe originally thought. So I'm just glad that Pittman said it, and hopefully this gets people to understand. It's like, yeah, Antonio Jordan could end up being a great wide receiver. He could end up having some plays this year. He could end up playing a little bit this year. But we need to pump the brakes on him just coming in and immediately taking over and being the best wide receiver on this team at this point.
You know, John, a couple of weeks ago when we first started kind of having this discussion, a very wise man on our Inside Arkansas Live program said it would be, honestly, the criteria for that everyone is laid out for Antonio Jordan is a very lofty expectations. And basically what I was saying is if he can get to the point where he doesn't redshirt this year, I feel like that would be impressive and notable and a win. Like that would be like if he doesn't redshirt this year and he plays enough to where, hey, they think they're actually going to use him in 5 or 6 games, that would be really impressive, especially for a guy who was a 3-star recruit. And we all agreed at the moment. We agreed on signing day. He was not just a typical run-of-the-mill 3-star. We felt like, hey, this guy might have a chance to be better. There's a lot of room between an 86 3-star and a 5-star who on 24/7 they define a 5-star as a guy who is expected to be a first-round pick. And Treylon Burks, by the way, was a first-round pick, is a guy that you could kind of make that comparison of, oh, hey, he maybe could have been a 5-star. Treylon Burks was also a pretty highly rated 4-star. And so him being like, hey, outperforming his recruiting expectation meant he was a, all SEC first-round pick type of guy. Antonio Jordan could outperform his recruiting expectation, and there's still a lot of room between that and 5-star. And I also, again, want to make this clarification because I see this comment from Translated Text, and he says, Jordan hit a wall. Oops, the coaches hyped him too heavy. Coaches hyped him too early. It was not the coaches, and I want to make that very clear. And that's not me, defending the coaching staff. Scott Souders, the day before camp started, said, yeah, Antonio Jordan, we love his work ethic. We love his size. We love all this. His numbers aren't quite there yet, with a freshman who just got to campus. You wouldn't expect him to be there in terms of, his top speed and his shuttle and his, vertical and all these things. And Sam Pittman from the jump has kind of just been like, yeah, we really like Antonio Jordan. That doesn't mean he's going to run with the ones. Like, we're hoping he can maybe work in with that 3 offense. Everyone else, it was other media people. It was specific guys on the beat that literally were saying this 5-star first-round pick stuff. That did not come from the coaches. That came from media and fans, and it was not us. I'm just going to tell you who we count as both media and fans. And so, again, it's just about tempering those expectations. And I know people were very upset when you said that, John, to maybe, hey, temper expectations just a little bit. But, we're kind of here now, and I think we're all on the same page. Now let's just move forward, and let's see if he can go out there, earn some reps, get his way into that top 5 or 6 of the receivers, and then we will all be happy.
Yeah, exactly right. And then if he plays out and balls out, then let's, have some fun with it and let's enjoy it. But at the same time, like you said, it's just let it develop, let it naturally go, and not just put this expectation on because of, hey, we really want this kid from Warren who's 6'6", 235 pounds to be really good. So let's just kind of make him good. It's like, let him become good. And then we can start having our own thoughts behind that too. Also, I wanted to bring this up from Sam Pittman. He was talked about what he learned from the offense in general, which, again, we can, it's a question that he could kind of take his own way, but here's what he's learned from the offense so far.
I think we can run the ball, so learning wise, I think it goes back over here to, we're learning we have a pretty dang good group of wideouts, and we're learning Platt can get open, something Rohan Jones can do some, Polska can do, both. We're learning a little bit more about our football team, and just because somebody was this way last year, good or bad, doesn't make him the same player. He can either be better or he can be worse. And so we're learning those things about our team a little bit more and in tough situations. And I feel really good about the team. I feel great about our punting, our kicking, our returners. Is really good to have Shanks back. I think our special teams are going to add really a lot of value to us. So we're learning all that about our football team, but luckily we're learning in a good way that how we feel about our team.
So mentions offense and special teams a lot and what he likes, but I actually appreciate the fact that the first thing that he talked about was running the ball, because as we know, he's like, you can only be so effective offensively without having the balance there. And if you can run the ball effectively, it's just going to open up the rest of the offense there in general. But Pittman says he likes his team. We've heard that before, but it's definitely something to where, basing it on previous comments, basing it on what's happened previously with the type of offenses that Sam Pittman has had, this one certainly seems like, from what we've heard, this could be one of those offenses that really has it all, like has all the pieces that it needs to be successful in the SEC. Will it be? That's yet to be determined. But from all intents and purposes, from all the players, from all the coaches, from everybody talking about this offense, they really, really like where it's at and the balance that it brings across the board.
Yeah, I think the important thing to remember here is that they are going up against what at this stage is probably one of the worst defenses in the SEC. Like, that's not even me being mean. It's just like at this particular stage, if they're going to be a good SEC defense or an average SEC defense, it's going to take some development. It's going to take some guys stepping up. Right now, I don't think that is the stage. So I think it is important to remember that. But also, again, going back to the spring, you know what we didn't hear, John, was that the receivers were crushing it. That they had the group they had. In fact, we saw them go out and get Jaylen Brown. We saw them go out and get Andy Jean because they didn't feel great about the receiver room. Seems like that tone has definitely changed throughout fall camp, and that's kind of always what you want to look for. It's no different than last year in the spring. They were very concerned about linebacker. They were very concerned about D-line. Then you get into fall camp, and they felt a little bit better about it. It seems the same with receiver, and I would even say the same for the tight end room, because I think Platt is a guy that you mentioned just there, has made some plays in fall camp that maybe he wasn't making in spring. I also think the stability on the O-line has really helped, and he didn't talk about it a ton right there, but there's not really much of a controversy going on. We're going to talk about it in a minute, I'm sure. But, like, I think, when you have Talon in year 2 of the offense, you have Bobby in year 2 of the offense, you have a running back in Mike Washington, who's the greatest football player of all time, apparently. So you've got something there. I think the fact that this offense, again, they're not asking a ton of questions. They know exactly who's going to play at receiver. They know exactly who's going to play on the O-line. They know exactly who's going to play at quarterback and running back. That allows you to actually take strides, get better, grow together, improve that communication, really grow as a unit. Whereas I feel like the defense right now, if you're just contrasting the offensive defense for Arkansas, the big question on defense is they don't know who's going to play on defensive end. They don't know who's going to play up front behind Cam Ball at defensive tackle. They don't know who's going to play in the secondary. They're still kind of figuring out some of those battles. And so it's hard for you to really make strides as a group if one day you're playing with these guys at corner and one day you're playing with these guys at safety. And hell, sometimes we play with these 4 down linemen, but sometimes we're going to play it's really hard for you to actually all as a collective unit get better. And I think that's what gives me a lot of, excitement is maybe not the word, but a lot of comfort with what the offense has going on. Look, will they be the best offense we've ever seen? I don't know. Will they be as good as those Petrino offenses back in the day? I don't know. But I like the idea that there's not really any questions of like, oh, what are we going to do? What's our identity? Who's going to play? They know who they have. They know who's going to line up there with that first 11, and they're able to just make strides with that group. And so it's just a lot easier for me as an observer and as a guy that covers the team to see the vision of what this offense could be. And we'll see what that ends up being, but it's a little bit easier to play that game because we know who's going to play.
Yeah.
Defense, you just don't really have that. And I think this offense right now is doing what they should do. They're taking advantage of a vulnerable defense, which is something we would like to imagine they're going to do a lot in this season.
Yeah, I want to see that element of this team this year where, it goes back to what you had confidence in going into the year or going into summer workouts, fall camp, whatever it is about the offense and about quarterback and about, okay, because that's how you're going to win games this year if they're the Razorbacks. This is the team you have. How you're going to win games this year is by your offense and the success that it has. And so it's good to hear all this. It's good to see all this. And let's just say for funsies that all the stuff that they have said in press conferences and stuff that we've seen and everything about the offense is true. Like, it's 100% true that this is what it's going to be. If all those things hit, where Talon Green is that much better, Mike Washington is that dude, the tight ends they really like and getting them involved. The offensive line seems to be set, which I know we'll talk about in a second. The wide receivers have really come along. Explosive plays like crazy in the scrimmages and fall practice. If all these things are true, that to me is what's going to make this team be able to win in 6-7 games this year. Like, if all those things come to fruition. Now, there's been things that we've heard in fall camps and in practices and in scrimmages that you hear about a lot. And then once the season starts up, it doesn't actually equate. So there's a possibility of that. But to you, like you said, maybe excitement is not the right word. But to me, it's about if I am because that's one thing I wanted from this fall camp. I think we talked about it from the very beginning. I just want y'all, and when I say y'all, the team, Pittman, whoever, to give me something to where I can point to and be like, all right, I don't know if this team's going to be very good. However, if they are, I can see this. I can know this. I will feel this. And I think that that's what they have at least accomplished in 2 weeks of fall camp, of establishing a level of excitement because of how the offense has looked, how explosive it is, how it's developed. Because you mentioned the wide receiver situation. I feel so much better about the wide receivers now than I did just a few weeks ago because of guys that have been stepping up. So to me, that's what I was happy to hear and to see is like, all right, I needed something to kind of fill the gap of pointing to something to feel good. I think if any Razorback fan is going to have some hope and excitement about this season, it's going to be based on this offense.
Yeah, and walk with me here because this is going to sound very sunshine pumpery. And this is coming from a guy who has been accused of being the biggest hater of all time. But, if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, that fish, you're going to think that fish is a moron and completely incompetent and not, if you're trying to be something you're not going to have success, whether it's in football, basketball, baseball, life, whatever. And so I think that's a very important part of going into football, where football is such a matchup game. You go into every matchup and you kind of know, hey, we're really good on the O-line. They're really weak on the D-line. Hey, we may be able to run the ball. Oh, they're weak at safety, and we've got this guy that can stretch the field. That's something we can do. You're always looking for ways you can attack your opponent, and you're also kind of cautious of ways your opponent can attack you. And I think when we use that term identity, whether, in basketball, baseball, football, you always have to kind of find that identity as a team. And, again, that's the word I keep coming back to with this offense is, again, we can talk about how good they're going to be. We'll find out. But they do seem to have that identity, both with just the leadership they have up front with guys like Carmona, guys like Talon Green being that voice. And we've heard nothing but good things about Talon's ability to make those checks and be the kind of engineer, field general that you need as an offense. And I think that if with Arkansas going into this season, they have a lot of difficult tasks in front of them, but I think they have a much better understanding of how they can accomplish some of those tasks. If Arkansas went into this season and was going to try and be this defensive-minded, physical football team that, plays a rock fight type of game, probably wouldn't have a lot of success. They're going to need this offense to be explosive. They're going to need this offense to play keep away, run the ball effectively, chew that clock. I think the fact that they know that, again, if we're talking about it and we know, it's not like these coaches and players don't know. It's like they kind of know what they have at each position, and they have an idea of, hey, we're going into this matchup. We need to kind of be worried here, but we can attack opponents here. And so I think that's kind of the idea you have to have. If you're trying to buy into why this team would outperform expectations, why this team would achieve things, you need to understand how that's going to happen. And right now, as it stands, the offense is the very clear path to how this team would outperform expectations. Of course, if you told me Arkansas, if you came from a time machine and you told me that Arkansas went 8-4, I would probably say to you, one, the offense was pretty damn good. Talon Green had a damn good year, but I would also say, okay, so then they must not have gotten exposed on defense as much as we thought. And again, that's what it comes down to, is attacking your opponents in ways that you can, which we feel like Arkansas can do, and then finding ways to hide your deficiencies in areas that you struggle, which I will give Travis Williams some credit in, because this defense had plenty of gaps and plenty of issues and plenty of holes last year, especially with their depth up front. But against Tennessee, you didn't really see those issues arise. And so I think Travis Williams is the type of coach, and I've always been a huge fan of T-Will, that can find those certain matchups where he can maybe hide his weaknesses pretty well and find different ways to attack his opponent. And that's really what it comes down to. And so you just kind of have to trust this coaching staff and this team, and we'll see if they can go out and do it, man.
So we'll get to your chats, folks, we promise. So appreciate everybody tuning in, and we'll talk a little bit of defense. But before, we will actually want to bring up the offensive line because I think that's important. But before we do, I want to play this clip from Fernando Carmona talking about the offense in general. If you believe Fernando and you love what he has to say here, then you're going to get excited about the season because he's very big on the offense as well.
Yeah, we are way ahead where we were last year. And I think it starts with Talon Green and his decision making. And then it kind of goes down to the offense line of giving time for Talon. And then from there, we have I have ultimate trust in the wide receivers that we have in our tight ends. And yeah, it just kind of, it's obviously starts up front, and then Talon taking care of the right reads. And yeah, no, we're a lot better. I really don't know exactly what to pinpoint it. Maybe the leadership, maybe us coming back for the second year, but yeah, it's exciting offense. You guys are going to really enjoy it.
So, I mean, again, that's something you love to hear. And, you know, I love how he's like, I don't really know when to pinpoint it, but it might be leadership and it might be, just us coming together. Like, you're like, okay, it's probably those things. It's probably those things.
It'd be funny if he's like, I think it's because our left guard just really has a great voice. He's a great leader out there. That'd be funny.
Yeah. If he was able to do something like that too. So, but also speaking of the offensive line, I think we've talked about how the left side of it seems to be set in stone. You know, Corey Robinson, Fernando Carmona. There it is. That's your tackle and guard there on the left side. But it's the right side of the offensive line that has been fascinating as far as how that's going to play out. Where Carmona was asked about what that looked like today, and here's what he had to say about the right side of the offensive line.
Yeah, I know we had Kobe out there, Kobe and E, and then Kobe and Shaq, I think, got a little bit of burn too. So just them two, they've been battling it out on that side. And, we have a really good offensive line. And, I have ultimate confidence, whoever we put on that right side, that they're going to hold it down and play great ball.
Stood out to you from the.
So you have those guys that have been in the mix. It seems that each and every day that passes by, it gets more narrow and pretty solidified as far as who are going to be the two guys there on that side of the ball.
Yeah, we went into fall camp knowing, hey, we got a battle to figure out at right guard and a battle to figure out at right tackle. And if remember, if you've been paying attention, this isn't groundbreaking news, but it seems like that right guard battle is Kobe Branham. Like, the answer to the right guard question is Kobe Branham, a redshirt freshman who, again, we've been hearing nothing but, like, I've not heard a bad word about Kobe Branham since he arrived on campus. Now, of course, we hear that a lot, but he was a guy that was pushing for playing time last year. So it's not that, crazy of a leap to understand why he's in that position. And for everybody that doesn't like Keyshawn Blackstock, you live to fight another day. He is not going to be your starting right guard unless something happens. And then, of course, that right tackle battle between Marion Harris and Shaq McCroy. And that's another, and by the way, if you listen to the wording, he said Shaq got a little bit of run there at right tackle. So again, it kind of leads to where we were at last week, where it seems like it's Marion Harris is the front runner there at right tackle. Kobe Branham has the right guard position loaded up. I checked every fastball depth chart from this past week. Every single one of them with the one offense had Kobe Branham at right guard and Marion Harris at right tackle. And that goes back to the point about knowing who you are. The more those two guys play together, the more they can build that chemistry. And early in fall camp, we actually heard Mateos and Pittman saying that McCroy and Kobe, Shaq and Kobe, if you will, had a lot. They had a lot of chemistry together. So now it's time for Marion Harris and Kobe Branham to kind of build that chemistry, and we'll see. I believe it was in a different question that he was asked, but Carmona spoke about Marion Harris and how, he's a redshirt junior now. It's kind of time for him to take that next step, time for him to be a dude. And he spoke about his leadership and felt, he knows the offense. He brings a lot to the table. And so seems like a Marion Harris, who we've always been high on him. He's from Maumelle, in-state kid, 4-star recruit. We always felt like if this team was, if this offensive line was going to work out, you needed someone from that class, because it was him, Chambly. I can't remember the other kid. They had another in-state offensive lineman that they brought in. They brought in like 3 4-star guys, and then obviously the other 2 are no longer with the team. So Marion Harris is kind of your last one. Like, you needed one of those guys to help you. I think you would be in the best interest of this team if Marion Harris would kind of solidify that right tackle spot, and it seems like he has. But shout out to Carmona for giving us the scoops there and kind of solidifying what we already kind of knew.
Yeah, and also too, I know I didn't pull this clip specifically, but it's funny him talking about that center position. He was like, he mentioned a player that I ain't heard of. He's like, hey, you guys need to watch out for this guy. He's like,
one of the freshmen, because they keep talking about the freshman offensive lineman, and Cash Courtney is kind of the ringleader of that, of course, at center. And then you've got Blake Cherry, who seems like he's kind of another guy that's been drawing some praise from coaches and players. And I still can't remember the name, but he did mention another freshman that's been balling.
Yeah, so they're big on the freshman offensive lineman, which I think even Carmona said they have a chance to be the best offensive line to come through this school. It's just, getting the hype machine going, I guess. But yeah, so the offense, again, solidified, looks good, feels good, all of that stuff. Again, we'll get to the chats, but we got to talk about defense. Wasn't a whole lot said, to be honest, about the defense, mainly because you had just one offensive player talking. But as we mentioned, it didn't feel like it was too great today. I'm trying to make it to where it's like I'm not just saying the defense is going to be the worst that it's ever been in the history of football. But I talked about, hey, I want to have stuff that you can give me to make me feel good. There's nothing that I'm getting right now about the defense that makes me feel good. There's just really nothing. It's like Xavier Sori was out a little bit. I think Pittman said something about 5 days. They had to have a procedure, something like that. But he's going to be out for 5 days, something like that, but nothing serious. But besides all that, man, there again, we'll talk about specifics, but I just don't feel good, man. I just do not feel good about the defensive line right now.
Yeah, I don't feel good about the defensive line. The one good thing that Pittman did say was Phillip Lee, the transfer from Troy, who had 5 sacks last year at Troy. I mean, on this roster, he is the most proven pass rush guy. Now he did it at, the group of 5 level, but he's the only guy on this roster at the defensive line that has sacks on his resume for his career. And so we kind of felt like, hey, if this defensive line is going to work, they really need these transfers to hit in a big way. Seems like they like Justice Boone. He's kind of the one guy that we've heard a lot. So that's good. That's the starting end right there. And you got Quincy Rhodes on the other end. But Phillip Lee and David Oki, I feel like, are the 2 guys that pretty much have to play. Like, they're going to play, have to produce in a big way if this defensive line is going to even be a competent SEC defensive line. I want to read the quote that Pittman had about Phillip Lee. He says, he can rush the passer. We got him to rush the passer, and he is rushing the passer. I thought that was a hilarious quote because it's just like, that's what college football, that's what sports is. It's like you bring in guys to do a job. We need you to do that job. But he also said it seems like Phillip Lee is actually maybe a little bit more of a every down defensive lineman. Like he's been making some plays in the run game. So that's all encouraging. But to your point, John, I'm begging for someone to go to a press conference and just be like, man, Quincy Rhodes was unblockable today. Oh, man, Justice Boone had 3 sacks. Oh, man, dude, Danny Saili was tearing it up. Man, but every single day we hear from these coaches and these players, and every single day, mum is the word on the defensive line except for Justice Boone.
Yeah, every single time. In fact, you mentioned already the Phillip Lee one. This is what gave me a little bit of a concern with the Razorbacks in the defensive line because David Oki is dealing with an injury, and Sam Pittman talked about how thin they are at that spot right now.
And so we may have to look at, may have to look at somebody else, and we'll figure that out by Monday. But we believe in our young freshmen. We do, whether they're ready or not right now. We've got to go have a honest conversation about that, which we already have. So we need another big over there and a guy that's a veteran. So we'll have to figure that one out between now and Monday.
Yeah, I don't really know about that, man.
What does he mean they're going to figure it out on Monday? Like, what's happening Monday where he's like, oh, yeah, we'll figure it out by Monday? It's like,
I guess of like who.
You're going to bring in another defensive lineman by Monday?
Either that or maybe they're going to be like, hey, is there an offensive lineman maybe that could play a little bit of both, and move them over there?
You know what, John? You might be onto something. Low key. They might have to move somebody over. I wonder who it could be. You think Shaq McCroy could play defensive tackle? He's 370 pounds, man. I'm sure he could eat up some blocks.
Yeah, just have him. Yeah, just be in the middle and just sit there. That's it. Like just have it happen that way. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it would be him, but that's kind of when I first heard him say that, it was like, okay, so if you're, like you said, you can't just add somebody. It's not like the free agency or anything that you can just bring them up. So it's either that you're going to move somebody over there, or maybe it's like you've had some freshmen that you've talked to about saying, hey, we're planning on redshirting you this year. Or, hey, we're doing this, or this is your role. And maybe sitting down with all of them, be like, all right, guys, like we need somebody that's going to have to play this year. And it's up to y'all to decide, like, what's it going to look like here in the practices? And we're going to give you guys these opportunities, but somebody's going to have to step up. Maybe it's just the conversations they've been having. I don't really know, but that is not a very ringing endorsement of the current situation with the defensive line, especially in the interior. And if you're sitting there with just one player, like David Oki not being there, and you're saying we're going to have some conversations, we're going to have to figure something out, like that is the last thing that you want to have happen. And especially at this point in time in fall camp for Razorbacks, Because I don't care. I know, listen, the defensive ends are important. It seems like they're pretty solidified there, but definitely you need depth on the D-line more than anything. And that's the last thing you ever want to hear in fall camp is the words thin D-line in the same sentence.
Yeah, you mentioned some of these conversations that they might be happening that he may be alluding to there when he says that. I think, when you have an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman that enters your program as a true freshman, the assumption is that they are not going to play at all. And if you're in the SEC, you should not be in a position where you're relying on people that close to the ball being 18 years old. I mean, you got to think about it. Someone like Amarian Harris, for example, who's a redshirt junior, he's been in the strength and conditioning program for 3-4 years. That's a lot of time becoming a man, maturing, getting stronger. And he's a redshirt junior, just now getting to the point where they're like really comfortable, like, hey, we can throw this guy out there. So it's really not ideal to have a guy 18, 19 years old that you're like forcing into action. When I think about what Pittman's saying, like the only thing I can think of is like you have to look at guys like Charlie Collins and Kavion Henderson, who are redshirt freshmen that really didn't play much for you at all last year. Charlie Collins got in some games, which is kind of funny that they kind of just thrust him into action. But like I think that's kind of those conversations. You got to look at some of those guys and be like, look, we don't, we aren't getting what we thought we were going to get from the transfers. We've got a couple guys. I mean, David Oakey's injured. We basically need you guys to grow up and do it by Monday is the sounds of it. It's pretty much what Pittman's going to say. He's going, hey, Charlie Collins, we need you to be 22 years old by Monday. If you can make that work, huge.
Yeah. Because I'm like, what can you do? How much can you accomplish? What can you say that's going to change people's mind or make, talking to your players or whatever? I don't know. So, guess what is it on Monday? We hear from Williams and Tuesday it's Petrino. Is that correct? I think in the press conference.
Something like that. I know we hear from the coordinators one more and down. That's all I know.
So, and I know that he doesn't coach D-line specifically, but I think that'll be something hopefully Travis Williams gets asked about if like on Monday, if that's when the press conference is, whenever we get to hear from him, be like, all right, so what's that look like right now? Did you have to move somebody? Did you have to add a piece? Did you have to play? Because I'm telling you right now, Andrew, if Arkansas is playing against Ole Miss and it's late third quarter, games really getting intense, and I start to see freshman interior defensive linemen out there pretty frequently, I ain't going to feel good about it, man. I am not going to feel good about it.
Yeah, maybe take one of these all-world freshman offensive linemen. Blake Cherry, you are now a defensive tackle. Go out there and rush the passer, buddy. I don't know, man, but I think it's I can't keep getting over how like he just was like Monday. We're going to figure it out Monday. That's when we'll have our answer Monday.
Yep. Going to have it all figured out by then. Okay. Again, folks, we'll get to your chats. But real quick, I just want to play a couple clips here. We don't have to spend too much time on them from Sam Pittman. Just a couple of interesting things. First off, I wanted to play this one. I think, let's see. I thought I had it up here. Maybe I didn't. Oh, yeah. So actually, no, I didn't. Never mind. We won't play that one. But this one, Sam Pittman got a little sassy. I didn't have the full question in there, but essentially, and maybe you can help me out with it, Andrew. Daniel Shee, our guy Daniel Shee, worded a question where he was like, hey, it's year 2 of Petrino, year 6 under you, which may not be as exciting or something to that extent is what he was saying. I don't know really what Shee was saying. Do you have like more insight on that?
Listen, it's really always tough to know where Shee's brain is going. But yeah, it did seem like he was trying to frame a question where he was like, hey, year 2 under Bobby, and it's year 6 for you. Like, is there anything y'all have learned about each other as coaches? Kind of asking about that relationship. But Sam Pittman was baffled by the question. Do you have that clip?
Yeah, I don't have I don't have the full question, but I have it where it starts where Pittman.
Okay.
Here. We'll just set up this way. She talks about year 2 under Petrino, year 6 under you, where it's not as interesting or exciting. That's where it starts. And then Pittman starts with his response, and then you hear the rest of the question.
Question in there?
Yeah,
what the hell are we doing?
Sorry. I guess, is there anything new that you've learned about yourself that you're looking to take into this year? I guess I should just lead with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think every year you take everything that you learn and, okay, I liked what we did here. I didn't over here. And you obviously try to get better each and every year. And I think, to be honest with you, during camp, I think we've done everything as a staff that we wanted to get accomplished. And the kids have worked extremely hard. They like each other. So to answer your question, yeah, each year you have to get better. And what was our main problem? We got to hold on to the ball and you got to get more turnovers and make field goals when we need to make field goals. And we've got a lot of other stuff to work on as well. But I think the format of practice and the way we're doing it and the physicality and all that is working for us. So I'm happy with what I've learned over 6 years, and I've still got a long way to go.
So we'll zesty there in the beginning. We'll whatever, but talked about those years and everything. So getting a little fired up. But I want to play that, and then the other one that I don't know why it's not loading up there, but that's fine. It doesn't matter. But either way, just Pittman getting a little frustrated, but I think it ended up being all right with the question.
It was an interesting day because he had a weird interaction with Danny Shee, which is like borderline a fireable offense in my opinion. Like, I don't think you should be coming down on Daniel Shee. And him and Daniel Shee used to have a good little rapport. Like, they used to kind of joke with each other. I don't know what happened there. But then he had the weird quote about the media and how they make mountains out of molehills and all that. And it's like, it was very interesting from Pittman. But I don't know. I'm not going to make a big deal about it. But I'll just say I did not like Pittman's smug attitude during today's presser. I'll just say that.
Yeah. He, I won't play the full clip because that was the other one too, because there was a lot of it going on as far as him dealing with the media as far as having his assistant coaches out there. And he made a mention, like, Arkansas media, y'all don't ever make mountains out of molehills, like kind of being a little bit sarcastic there. And it's kind of like, all right, like whatever, man, like that's not necessary, but hey, whatever, to each your own. But either way, I'll tell you what, so we'll get into quite a few of your chats here, folks. We appreciate everybody tuning in, but want to remind everybody that here on Inside Arkansas, we're brought to you by our friends of Walter Christmas Lighting of Arkansas. With the holiday season around the corner, Halloween is a big one. Christmas is a big one, especially when it comes to lighting up your house. So it's a lot of work. Well, don't worry about it because you're going to have professionals help you out with Walter Christmas Lighting. They have you covered this fall and winter. If you're in Northwest Arkansas or in the River Valley, check them out today. And they're going to take care of all of it for you. All materials are provided, any color, any pattern. They install the lights for you. You get free maintenance throughout the holiday season, as well as takedowns happening in January. And if you sign up for Halloween lights, you also get your Christmas lights for 50% off. So text our guy, Brett, for a free estimate at 479-459-1380. That's 479-459-1380. It's Walter Christmas Lighting of Arkansas, your local holiday lighting experts. All right, so getting into some of your chats. And appreciate all of you tuning in. Got to get a super chat with Joel. Says, appreciate super chat. He says, maybe the offense is just that good and the defense isn't the worst in the world. I mean,
we could play this game all day long. And I mean, obviously there's always that possibility. But I always think it's funny how we do this. And then when we get into the season, we start looking back and we're like, oh, well, so they actually sucked here and they were good here. It's like, I think also one thing that's worth noting is that these teams play each other every day. Like, this offense and defense have been going at each other for a while. And so it's like sometimes there's just things that happen in these scrimmages that truly mean nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm like, and I get it because you could play the game and that's fine. Totally. Because I think the Arkansas offense is going to be good. And I'll tell you this too. I hope you're right, Joel. I hope it's just the offense is most incredible dynamic offense Arkansas has ever had in the history of their football program. And they're making the defense look so bad, even though they're not that bad. I hope you're right. It's just if you base it on, on history and trends and going into the year and everything, it's just not the most likeliest of scenarios for that.
Listen, we can do it, but you just have to understand that is an extremely optimistic way to view the situation, which, it's the time of year for optimism.
Yes, exactly right. It is that time. Just wait until another week or two, man. Game week.
When they beat Alabama A&M 94-3. Yeah, it's gonna feel good then. Eh?
Yeah. Oh yeah. When Monty Harrison has 2 touchdown catches or something like that, it's just gonna be lit on fire, man. It's gonna be awesome. All right, so let's see. John Oliver says, did the offense struggle in short yards and red zone against the 2 defense again? I don't know. Here's the deal. It's like the explosive playmaking was really what it was about today. So there were times where they just had 30-yard runs and then a 91-yard touchdown run and everything. But as far as in short yards and in red zone, I don't think that there was any sort of struggle there today.
It's impossible for us to really know. To our knowledge, that wasn't a thing last week, was it?
I don't think so. I think that there may have been some moments, because I will say this: the offense apparently started badly today. It was like, I think they didn't get a first down in their first drive, which is unacceptable. So it's like, they kind of, I can only imagine that what Bobby Petrino had to say to them about that, but then they turned it on and got it going. But that was really the only thing I heard from today, at least, of anything that they struggled with, was just the fact that they got off to a slow start.
Well, now that I think about it, it was last week. It was the 2-minute drill that the offense didn't score. And so that was like the only time they didn't score a touchdown was in the 2-minute drill. They didn't speak specifically about short yardage or, goal line, red zone stuff. I know the red zone was obviously an issue last year. But to our knowledge, I mean, they scored like 9 touchdowns last week. Mm-hmm. We didn't get the full count today, but it seems like the offense has been scoring pretty consistently.
Yeah. Also, too, let's see some other chats here too, because we'll trying to get to them all. But Ryan says, "What's up, boys? Missed you guys. Sorry I haven't been able to get around lately, but watching today." So yeah, hey, good to hear from Ryan. Yeah, right. Appreciate you tuning in. Jaron says, "What if our defense is just average?" Okay, we already talked about that. Yeah. So, transplant Texans. So Mike Washington confirmed RB1 then per Pittman. I think so. Yeah.
I mean, listen, I've seen a few people doing this where they're like, "Oh, wait a minute. So what's the running back battle?" I don't think it's been a battle since like week 1 of spring ball, honestly.
Yeah, it hasn't been. Like, it's kind of like last year with Jaquin and Jackson. It's like, the guy's number one, and plain and simple, clear as day. And that's what I like. I think it's maybe I overstated too much, but I love when from the get-go, you got your guys and it doesn't change. Which, yes, everybody wants that, but like the offensive line especially, because I felt like maybe more so under Cody Kennedy. That's probably one of the biggest reasons why it didn't work out. Just every single practice, there was a new starting 5 on the offensive line. I'm like, I don't like that. It's like, stick with what you got. And I give credit to Petrino. Taylor Green, as soon as he stepped on campus, he was starting. Like, that was it. Quentin Jackson, he was the starter. That was it. Mike Washington right now looks like, hey, you're the starter. That's it. That's what we like. We like to see that solidified, made known, and then you move forward with it.
Well, and if there's a position where the backup can play a lot, it is running back. Yes. So it's not the end of the world for Braylon Russell that he's not RB1.
That's right. Mason says, I got to walk by Steven Dix today in person. Bro is literally the biggest football player I've ever seen.
Steven Dix is Steven Dix, more so than Xavier Sori even, is like built in a lab that like looks like the kind of like what you want your linebackers to look like. He's going to be good. We don't talk about Steven Dix much because there's just not much controversy with the linebacker room. That's the one area of the defense we have no questions about.
Yeah. 6'1", 246, I feel like is a good sized linebacker. That's pretty good. But let's see. S. Jack says, dang, do we have the 2009 to 2011 offense back? People are saying.
The one thing I will say about this, and I know we talked positively about the wide receiver room today, it's not that we'll see how the offense stacks up in terms of just level of competency, but that's the big difference between this and that era, is that you don't have 4 NFL wide receivers on this team. I know they like their receivers. If this offense is going to be that good, it's going to do it in a very different way. It'll probably be a lot more run game oriented. And I'm not saying they're going to be that good. I'm just saying if they are, it's not going to be because they have 4 NFL wide receivers. That does not exist on this team.
That's right. Let's see. Also, Corey, when we're talking about Antonio Jones, says, taking the heat off the young man, he will be a problem. How many freshman wide receivers have balled out into Petrino's offense?
Well, those 4 NFL wide receivers did ball out in Petrino's offense.
Yeah.
Cody Hamilton balled out, I'd say.
Yeah, but also, too, because the point I want to bring, because I knew someone would say, like, that group of Childs, Jarius Wright, and all that, obviously they were all very talented, but also, too, they almost had to, because they didn't have many other options. They had London Crawford, and that was pretty much it as far as the type of wide receivers. So they were forced in a way to become great. Where this year, it feels like you have at least some options there instead of just having to rely on true freshman wide receivers.
John, you remember Petrino's first game as the head coach against the Western Illinois Leathernecks? You remember that?
22-20 final score.
I remember that day coming to the conclusion that Jarius Wright was the best receiver I've ever seen. I was like, this dude is a problem. Like that was like the most that was the only way you could come away from that game with Kool-Aid. That's what I did that day.
Yeah, well, I would say you did, because I remember sitting there being like, we beat a D2 team by 2 points at home.
And they had to come back from it was like in the fourth quarter they had to score 2 touchdowns or something like that.
No, that was the next week against Louisiana Monroe.
Oh
yeah, because they were down.
They needed a 4th and 1 to Chris Gregg to win that game. I was at that one.
Cowboy, go get him, man. That was the play. But that's the thing, Andrew. No one remembers that too much about like, oh, that team sucked or anything. It's like, no, you won just because you still won. It didn't matter. You still won the game. That's all the only thing that mattered. Let's see. Rocky says, John, I would be more surprised if we hit the under than if we made the playoffs. We are underrated, and if we as a team make it happen, it can be a great year. Listen, Rocky, I am hoping you're right. I 100% am hoping you're right. I hope this team wins every game. I'm going to rooting for them to win every game, and I'm going to celebrate anytime they win the game because I made a mistake last year. I was upset after a win last season. I'll admit it. When they beat Auburn, I was not happy because of how poorly they played at the end of the game and felt like they should have been better. But either way, I'm going to hope that's the case. Maybe it ends up happening. Maybe they're underrated. We won't know until the games happen. But this is what is, I want to make this clear every single time that we do these streams, Inside Arkansas Live, Fall Camp, and all that. We only know what we know, and that's what we base all of our conversations and everything on what we know right now. And what we know right now is the offense is looking great. The defense is looking suspect. The D-line in the interior has some depth issues. The offensive line seems to be coming along nicely. Like all these things, these are the things we know. So that's all we can talk about, and that's all we can bring up.
John, you'll be happy to know Rocky. He's been playing the hits of Sunshine in the chats, but one of his primary cases has been that Landon Jackson actually sucked, and so that's why D-line's not an issue.
Got us. I'm okay. You're never again. You're banned.
That's always when you got a good one is whenever it's like, well, Landon Jackson actually sucks, so now the defensive line is good.
And I never thought I'd have to do this. I may have to add Landon Jackson to the no slander list.
I can't believe that we have to defend him from slander, but dude, he's like the least popular Razorback of the last decade. It's crazy.
I'm adding him right now because this is unreal that we're having to do this. So here we go, folks. The full updated list. Landon Jackson.
Taylor Green is on the list. When did we put Taylor Green on there?
I put Taylor Green. Oh, I put Taylor Green on there when it may have been like I think actually it was during SEC football media days, maybe that there were just people saying that he was trash. So I was like, no, until we see the development, I think he's going to be okay. Or no, I think it was when all that stuff was going on that everyone hated him on the team. The wide receivers hated him, transferred out, and everyone was like, this guy sucks. He's a cancer. It's like, okay, relax.
Yeah.
Speaking of, Big Choppa just says, bro, Taylor Green is such a baddie. All right.
I love this comment.
Yeah. No, that's people are saying.
It is funny though, because what's funny is that I feel like overwhelmingly going into this season, Hog fans are a lot more excited about Taylor Green. Is that fair compared to last offseason?
Yeah, I think so.
It is funny just because I feel like during the season last year, we had to become Taylor Green defenders because of how many Hog fans hated Taylor Green.
Yeah. Well, I just think that let's be honest about this, Andrew. There are people, and sometimes it can be right, sometimes it can be wrong, but there are people that if they don't like a new person coming in when there's somebody already there in the wings that they like. And it could have been Jacoby Criswell. It could have been Malachi Singleton. But there were people who are like, hey, these guys came here. They're Arkansas guys. They're this. They've been waiting their turn. It should be their opportunity. And so if a new guy comes in, they're kind of already apprehensive. Be like, he sucks. Look at his numbers. That's how people are. But I think here's the deal. Taylor Green coming out for Boise State. Everyone saw those numbers. And yes, they weren't overwhelming. But we've had Taylor Green already and seen what he did at Arkansas in a full season. And was it perfect? No. But was it pretty dadgum good? I'd say so. I mean, there's things he's got to work on, but it certainly wasn't. Like Arkansas definitely had worse quarterback play. So let me ask you this, Andrew. If Taylor Green has a slightly better season than what he did a year ago, we'll just say slightly better. Is he better than KJ Jefferson?
No.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like it's not even like KJ has this bar that like he can't reach. I mean, I think it's well within Taylor's grasp. If he has a great year out there, you can make that case. I would not put him over KJ because KJ was the quarterback of a 9-4 team that won a lot, and then he was really good. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the country in 2022. Arkansas went 7-6, and they weren't a great team, but KJ was very good in 2022, and then stunk in 2023. But I would say that Taylor would have to go they would have to win 8 or 9 games for me to consider Taylor better than KJ.
That's fair. Petrino's playbook says if we don't turn the ball over and lead the FBS in fumbles equals that helps the defense.
This may sound simplistic, but it is very true. I do think that's another, again, it comes down to the point of how can you go into each game knowing where you're good and where you're bad. You got to help that defense out as much as you can. And that's one thing offensively. Arkansas had good numbers yardage wise. They had a lot of 3-and-outs last year. They were a very boomer bust offense. Dude, there were multiple games in the Oklahoma State game. They went a full quarter without getting a first down. In the Missouri game, they went a full quarter without getting a first down. Like, that puts a lot of strain on your defense. A&M game, they couldn't move the ball at all in the second half, and the defense eventually wore down. I think they could definitely help their defense a little bit, and they're going to need to.
Yeah, they are. They are. Bray Tritty, and then with me and my, I guess, whatever. He says, our defense performed well last year against incompetent quarterbacks like Auburn and A&M. This
is a true statement. And it's also something that they're going to have to do again. Like, if they have to take advantage of those, you face a first-year quarterback week 3. You're going to face a first-year quarterback week 5 against Notre Dame. Like, you have to take advantage of those opportunities.
And what's crazy is I almost feel like because of that fact, the toughest games right now, at least defensively, I'm looking at is going to be like LSU. Like, if I'm ranking the games of like what's the toughest for Arkansas's defense, like LSU might be number 1.
Them in Texas, and those are both very late in the season. So, not saying Arkansas is going to figure out a completely awesome defense, but you got a while before you have to face a true frontline quarterback for sure.
Yeah. And even then, it's like Texas with Arch Manning. I think he's going to be good, but is he going to be what everyone thinks he's going to be? That's up to determination there. Shout out to Razorback for the super chat. Appreciate it. Goes, Tesla balling in preseason makes me mad. Okay. I'm going to defend the whole situation here. Like, and you can disagree with me. I don't think that you can compare just a player that's doing well in the NFL in preseason and then looking at him at Arkansas and maybe was underwhelming or maybe didn't perform as well, and just immediately saying like we didn't do this, he was mistreated, whatever it is. Like, I think Tesla is a great player. I think he should have been utilized more last year. Don't get me wrong. But I also don't think after a few preseason NFL games that in his rookie year that you can sit here and be like, oh my goodness, it infuriates me because we just let this insane great player that's going to, now if he balls out for the Lions and he's like their leading wide receiver this season and they go to the playoffs and stuff, okay. But preseason, come on now.
I would also say, and like, I understand, like, you can make a case for utilization and all this. It's not like Isaac Tesla did not play at Arkansas. He played like 750 snaps across 2 seasons. And, you can do the Broden thing. Should Broden have been starting over him? Absolutely not. Hell no. No doubt about that. But, like, Tesla got, I would say, a lot of opportunities at Arkansas and was okay in his opportunities. Did people do this with Cody Hollister? Because you remember Cody Hollister was that guy where he only played like a handful of snaps at Arkansas. He played way less than Tesla played at Arkansas. And he, like, made the roster and, like, caught passes in the NFL. Were we doing this with Cody Hollister back in the day?
If we were, then I don't remember it, but maybe there was a case. But I just don't see it that way. I mean, sometimes it's just that way. Sometimes it's about setup. Sometimes it's about the system you're in. Sometimes guys, and I'm not saying this is going on with Tesla because it's very new, but sometimes guys just, once they get to the NFL, they bloom a little bit more. Like, it just happens. I hate to bring up the baseball example, but I'm going to, Andrew, since you're here. But, think about some baseball players that didn't play necessarily a whole lot at Arkansas, for instance, but then went on to the majors and did really well. I mean, it's not always has to be so simple in drawing the line there. Like, sometimes it's just players are different, built different. Because I'm sure that all of you who watched the frickin' Citrus Bowl in 1999 knew that Tom Brady was going to be the greatest quarterback of all time in the NFL after Arkansas lost to him in Michigan. Like, nobody knew that, but that's my point. Sometimes it works out, sometimes great. Just root for the kid, and that's it. Don't worry about it now. He's no longer on the team. Just root for the kid.
John, if I could pay just a flat fee for something to happen, I think I would pay like $500 if Tyrone Broden could just catch like 3 passes in the final preseason game, because he's playing with the Seahawks right now. Yeah, I would love for Tyrone Broden to just catch like a 70-yard touchdown, just so everybody could start doing that bit of like, damn, we couldn't use this guy. He's 6'7" and runs a 4.3.
You just learned how to hold on to the ball and catch when you got to the NFL. And that's all it took. Let's see. Also, Bray Tritty just makes me laugh. Says, if the A-State game is close, the neighbors rant will be one to see. Yes, it will be. It will be. I'll still be okay with them winning, but if it ends up being like that Western Illinois game we just referenced where Arkansas wins 22-20 or some crap like that, I'm not going to be a happy camper. I'm not going to be very happy with that. Let's see. Noah asked, do we think they are going to try and do the Rush 3 drop everyone's zone thing they did a few years ago?
I would say almost certainly, but if you if you listen to the coaches, they are saying no. Like Marcus Woodson was acting like they're going to just be man-to-man clamping folks, and they're going to be blitzing more and doing all this stuff. I would imagine, though, no, if I had to guess, they probably will.
Yeah, that's my thing is they're going to do whatever it takes to make it work. And here's the thing is I don't mind if they do that if it works. If it is like we could sit here and be like, you guys should have better D linemen, you should have this. True, but if they change it up a little bit and it works out all right, then I'm okay with it. I want them to have as much depth as possible. But if they do that and they still continue to have the major struggles, then there it is. So also, okay, I saw this from Will. I wanted to just address because I feel like we always have to randomly sometimes. He says, why does everyone keep saying you guys don't have credentials? I don't know much, but from what I understand, all of Arkansas reporters or broadcasters have credentials. Because we don't have credentials. We can watch.
That's why you hear that is because we don't have credentials.
Yeah, we literally do not have credentials. We can
we have to find loopholes just to get in the building.
Yeah. We are not allowed to cover the team. We can look at the Zooms, get in on those when it does press conferences like from today. But as far as covering the team, going to press conferences, being credentialed into games and all of that, Inside Arkansas is officially not allowed to do that. So it's been an ongoing thing. But I feel like every once a month or so, we always have to update everybody and let everybody know that's why. And we've just been told that. So either way, guess this one you just did is John Oliver says potentially good offense, questionable at best defense, got to generate turnovers equals wins.
Every now and then we'll do an hour and a half stream of, trying to really dissect this thing, look at it from all angles. And then someone will come in with a chat that literally just summarizes exactly our stance, which is pretty much this. Like, hey, this offense, there's a lot to be excited about. It could be pretty good. Defense, a lot of questions. Arkansas is going to need some things to bounce their way in some of these games. Like that's kind of where we're at, honestly. I think it's a good way to put it.
Yep, pretty much. I mean, last year, what was it? I think, was it Deke Adams that said it or Marcus Woodson maybe that said that, hey, Arkansas last year when they won the turnover battle, they were undefeated. They won every game. And it's like,
that's a completely unique thing to Arkansas too, by the way.
Yeah, it's only them. It's only them that's the case.
All they got to do is just get 6 turnovers again like they did against Auburn.
Yeah. Or even like the Mississippi State game, which I know Mississippi State they blew out anyways, but it's like in that game they turned it over a ton at the goal line. It felt like
they got a bunch of they got some lucky breaks against Mississippi State. If we're being honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, them and here's the thing: is did they win the turnover battle against Tennessee last year? I felt like actually no.
I don't know if anybody turned the ball over in that game.
That's right, because I remember we talked about that. I was like, that was such a unique, weird thing is that they didn't have a fumble or pick for either team, and just be honest, in a major college football game to not have one single one. They also didn't even have like a turnover on downs. I don't even think so. Point is that yes, if you have less turnovers than your opponent, you're usually in a pretty good position to win games.
By the way, I see a take here from Hickory Hog that I want to read because it's funny. But he says, let's be honest here. You have a 6'7" Broden or the D2 white boy. Is it obvious that Tesla should have been playing? So, okay, this is just a funny comment. But if people remember how this situation played out, Tesla started the entire season in 2023 and got replaced at the end of the year by Broden. Like that's how that played out. Was Tesla played, wasn't super productive. They didn't really find a way to use him. So then they started playing Broden more down the stretch. And then in the spring, Broden looked good. And, we all kind of were like, hey, damn, they might actually have something with a Broden because I thought Broden stunk when he first got to campus. Then in the spring last year, I don't know if he was on HGH or what. He looked great. And so he kind of earned the job and then ended up sucking in the season. And they went back to Tesla. But I think Hickory Hog touches on a great point here where it's like these things happen sometimes where you just, a guy ends up being better than you thought, or this guy ends up being not as good as you thought. And I think we can blame whoever we want to blame, whether that's Talon, Bobby, Sam, Broden himself. I know a lot of people do that. I think sometimes it's just these things happen. And I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I don't buy that there's like this grand conspiracy because I think that's what everyone has kind of convinced themselves is that there was like this ruse, this plan to keep Tesla off the field and don't throw him the ball. And I just don't buy that. Like, I think that, could they have used him more? 1,000%. Should he have played more? 1,000%. I don't know if it was like this make or break thing that was going to make the difference in the season. I mean, Tesla played a lot at Arkansas and he had some good moments, but like, I don't think this is like some transcendent thing that, we're all idiots for not seeing coming. You know what I mean? Like, and if he ends up having a 12-year NFL career, maybe we'll feel differently, but I don't know if right now is necessarily the time to be like, storming the Capitol.
No. And also, too, let's be honest about this with the Bobby Petrino angle. Yes, there were times last year that Tesla was wide open and Talon just missed him. Like, I think, what was it, the LSU game, the one that everyone remembers, he could have done cartwheels into the end zone. Like, that is 100% true and did happen. But I just have a hard time believing that Bobby mother effing Petrino, who is the guy at getting offense to his playmakers and getting the ball to his playmakers, saw Isaac Tesla, was like, this guy is so good, but we're just not going to find ways. We're just going to hope that maybe he gets open. Like, I don't buy that. I just don't buy the fact that they went into it with Tesla. I was just, we're not going to give this guy opportunities because he's just not that good. Like, Bobby Petrino would identify how good he was. Did he fit perfectly? Maybe not. Was it a Talon Green problem? Maybe so. But I just don't think it's as simplistic as, Arkansas and the coaches had no idea what they had with Isaac Tesla. I just don't buy that.
I would say it's the same kind of situation with Luke Has, who, we talked about this a lot of, like, hey, are they going to use him? Are they going to find creative ways to get him the ball? It didn't really work out, and Luke Has was banged up, but we stopped talking about it because it just kind of was like, all right, this is kind of a pointless conversation. Same kind of situation there. Like, I don't know if there was really this, like, deep-seated idea of, like, we cannot throw the ball to Luke Has. Talon, if you see him open, do not throw the ball. And I always do love when people will pull the clips of, like, because listen, you could watch every college and every NFL game and find 20 plays each game of an example of, the quarterback should have thrown the ball here. Quarterback should have thrown the ball here. And listen, we can do that all we want. And of course, Talon's got to have a better understanding, all that. But it's like, these things happen like all the time at the NFL level, college level. There's not a reason for it. It's just, sometimes you're playing at high speed. You have 1.7 seconds to make a decision and you're looking the wrong way. I looked here, I looked them off, and now I missed them. These things happen a lot, but it's not like a grand, like, it's not because Talon doesn't like Isaac Tesla or that he's a moron or anything like that. It's like these things just kind of happen. And it annoys me when I see people post screen grabs of, like, screenshots of real time things. And they're like, why didn't this happen? And I'm like, well, we're moving 1,000,000 miles an hour here. Like, sorry.
Yep. Exactly right. All right. Well, Andrew, any other chats, any other final thoughts, any other things before we roll out of here for today?
No, I have run out of commenters to yell at. I have run out of takes to spew off, but I'm excited, man. I'm excited for football. We're now 14 days away. Is that right?
That's right.
Exactly 2 weeks. Alabama A&M's on the clock. Fall camp is pretty much over, we've determined, or at least I don't know how we're technically, but I'm excited. I'm also excited to see Monday how they've turned around the D-line room. But seriously, it's always good to talk football, and the excitement is growing. And I'm appreciate everybody for tuning in and watching us on this Saturday. Hang out, talk some ball.
Yep. And again, be sure to subscribe to us here at Inside Arkansas, because we're going to have all of your coverage for Razorback football throughout fall camp as well as the season. Post-game shows, accountability reports, report cards, all that stuff throughout the weekends. It's going to be chock full of so many different content pieces when it comes to covering Razorback football. So be sure to tap in with us here at Inside Arkansas. Be sure to subscribe to us on our YouTube page. You can also check us out on social media at Inside Arkansas as well, and we'll keep it going from there. So for Andrew Ellis, I'm John Neighbors. Same sports show, same sports channel. Who knows? Maybe next week we'll just fire off a Saturday scrimmage, Saturday press conference, Saturday live stream, something like that, just to get you guys all fired up once again. But either way, appreciate y'all. Have a great rest of your weekend. We'll see you then.